Welcome to SourceCAD. In this video, Paul Mohindi will show you the step-by-step method of making all the project settings in Civil 3D for a new project. So if you are starting a new drawing or you want to optimize an existing Civil 3D drawing to the best settings, then this video covers it all. Now here are the main topics that we'll cover in this video. We'll start with the overview of Civil 3D drawing settings table, then creating units and zone drawing settings. After that, creating the transformation drawing settings, and then creating object layer drawing settings, then creating abbreviation drawing settings, and after that we'll talk about creating ambient drawing settings, and then we have creating the drawing settings adopting imperial units, and after that we'll talk about creating the imperial and metric base project drawing settings as templates. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with a little help of ChatGPT, which will just help us create all these settings that we have discussed so far. So with that, let's get started.
So the first thing that we have here is just our Civil 3D software. So I've just launched it, and this is currently the home page or the Start tab where we have it here. And I assume that you already know how to use Civil 3D, but you just want to learn how to come up with a new drawing. But if you don't know how to use Civil 3D, kindly check down in the description. I have linked a free course that you can be able to use to learn how to use Civil 3D as a beginner. So at our far left hand side, we have this option of starting a new drawing. And if you click on this drop down option, you have various options such as using different templates, so on and so forth. But in this video, we're just going to be using the default one. So this is basically the arcade iso.dwt. So .dwt is just basically the format used to save templates, and I'm going to be showing you that in a few. So just simply click on new. Once you click on new, a new tab will be created here where you'll see drawing 1, and at the top here you'll also see drawing 1. So currently we are under the Civil 3D workspace. So if you don't have this workspace, just simply click on this and it will be activated. And if you have changed it very much, you can simply go to your workspace settings and you can be able to restore your Civil 3D workspace. So after that's done, we want to come up with some settings for our new drawing. So how do we get to the settings of our new drawing? By default, you usually have your settings tab here under the tool space, and if you cannot see the tool space, you just simply click on this. So right now it's unchecked, so it's deactivated. So when it's not blue in color, it means it's deactivated. When it's blue in color, it means it's activated, and that's how you find it here. But what if you have your tool space but the settings tab is missing? You just simply click on this gear icon here. So if it's unchecked, it's currently missing, but if it's blue in color or this cyan color, it means that it's now activated, and now we have it here. So that is one of the most common issues or troubles that many people usually face, how to locate this specific tab. So once that's done, you can either just click on this drawing one, then right click, and you'll find this option, edit drawing settings. Alternatively, you can just simply click on this Civil 3D icon. So if you click on this once and you navigate to drawing utilities, you'll find this option. Being the third option, it is drawing settings. So you can just use this to specify the drawing with ambient settings, as well as the settings for the units and zones and object layers and abbreviations. So let's just click on this just to launch it. And just like that, now we have these drawing settings. So by default, it will have these 5 tabs. So the units and zone, transformation, object layers, abbreviations, and the ambient settings. So we're going to be starting with the units and zones. So in this project, we can clearly see that our first option is about meters. So from here, we can just simply specify if you're using metric or imperial. So metric is basically meters, millimeters, kilometers, so on and so forth. While imperial is when you're using feet, inches, and so on and so forth. So if you are just to click on this drop down, you can be able to toggle between feet and meters, basically just toggling between metric and imperial. So right now we're working with metric, and then I'm going to show you in a few how to work with imperial. So at the right hand corner, just opposite this metric meters, you'll find this imperial to metric conversion. So in the event that you want to convert anything from your drawing to either of the standards, you can be able to use either the international foot, which simply translates 1 foot to 0.3048 meters, or when you're using much of the time when you're working with a team of surveyors, you can use this option, which is a US survey foot, which is 39.37 inches per meter. So it depends with the one that you want to use. So in this case, we might go with this US survey foot, and then under scale, I can just simply change this scale to match up with the one that I prefer, either for the production drawings. And you can also find the same option down here. So this is just basically scale, but it's not important for now, but you can just go with 1:1000, and you can even change it later on. Down here we have the angular unit. So this is basically when you're working with angles, you can either use degrees, you can use grams, or you can use even radians. So it depends with the one that you prefer. For my case, I usually work with degrees, so I'll just leave it as is. And down here you can be able to scale objects inserted to your drawings. When you check on this, you can be able to scale them, and you can also set the AutoCAD variables to match by checking on this. Not only that, you can also create your custom scales. So you ask to select custom, I can be able to use a scale of, let's say 1200, something of the sort, and that's the way you change it from here. But let's just go with 1:1000. This we can be able to change later on. And just below here we have this zone area, so it's like a box area like this, and this is the section where you select your datum and your projections. But what are datum and projections when it comes to Civil 3D and design? So I'm just gonna show you what they basically mean. So right here I've just jumped into my browser, and I can just simply show you. So when it comes to engineering and basically the world and the way we try to interpret the different places on the earth crust, we tried to place them in a way that they can be able to be matched or linked up using a system. So we can have this cylinder type of thing that we can be able to place all the items or all the landmarks that we have here to create this continuous cylinder with the different places on maps. And then we're going to have a grid system that you can be able to use. And I'm just trying to summarize what all these items mean, and you can just simply do your research from Wikipedia, and you can be able to understand how basically these maps are usually created. So there are different ways that you can come up with maps like so, and I can link this down in the description so that you can be able to read it yourself and understand all these different areas or these different systems that have been used for many years to come up with maps. But the one that we mainly use is a UTM, or the Universal Transverse Marketer Coordinate System, where we have basically created like the grids on the earth like so. So we start from AB, omitting I and O, so AB, and where we have the equator, we have M and N, and then from there we have the alphabetical letters trailing to 0. So let's say when you're around here, your letter will be T. So this is a T zone, and then you'll just simply look at your longitude. So let's say T18 west or 18x. So it depends with the exact place that you are, and that's the way you check. So for our case, here we are 18T. This is New York. And if you're doing a project, it may say in this case it's in Africa continent and it's in Kenya. So we can see that it's either above the equator on the northern hemisphere or on the southern hemisphere. So if it's on the northern hemisphere, it will be in the north, so it will be N, and then we're going to check the number. Let's say it's 37 west or 37 or 36 west. So from the center of the earth, we either have west or east. So above here you can be able to see we have the 0 degree, and then from to the left we are simply moving to the west direction, and to the right you simply move into the east direction. So all these items you can be able to find them for your usage in the Wikipedia website, and you can be able to understand more in depth. So for our case, we have this certain project that we want to work on, and this project is found within Kenya. So you can simply go through all these countries that you've been given. So if you want to work with Dubai, you want to work with Egypt, or you want to work with Ethiopia, so on and so forth. We have Japan, we have Kenya here. So you can just simply select the country that you want to use and the specific zone. So I understand areas like USA, there are so many areas that you have, so you can select the specific one that you want to work with, and it's going to just work as you want. So for this case, let's just simply go with Kenya. So I'm just going to simply scroll up and then find Kenya. So once I select on Kenya, there are various coordinate systems. So under this, remember the map that we're looking at. So depending on where that project is located in Kenya, you can just simply select, is it 36 north or 36 south or 37 north or 37 south? And if you're using the ARC 1960, which is a one that is mainly used here, especially for a civil design project, you can be able to select that one. So let's just simply go with 37 north. I'll just simply select on this, and you can have now that our selected coordinate system code is this one. So this is very important. You have to be sure. You can also consult with your surveyors on the specific coordinate system that they use to pick their data, so that you can be able to also represent it here when you're coming up with your drawing settings. So we'll just simply get a description here. So we have the ARC 1960/UTM zone, that's 7 north. The projection is using the UTM and the datum is ARC 1960. So once that's done, you can just simply hit on apply. So let's simply go to the next tab where we have transformation. So in the event that you want to do any transformations, let's say transferring your settings either from one settings to the other, you simply use this area here. But much of the time I don't use this area, but if you want to transform any other item, you can just simply use this one here. So you can either apply the transformation settings by checking on this, and then you can apply the sea level scale factor. So depending with the elevation that you want to use, you can specify here, and on this right hand side it's going to give you the spheroid radius in meters, because right now we're using the metric system. When it comes to the grid scaling factor, you can also specify here if you want to use the reference point or any other of these options here. But in the event that you select, it's going to just update the scale factor that is being used for that specific ordeal. So in this case, you can even use user defined and give the specific scale factor. And under this, we're going to have the local northing, easting, and also the grid northing and easting. So basically it's just the transformation in accordance to that specific zone or data point that you have selected initially. But for this case, we are not going to be using this. This is more advanced. Just leave everything as is. I'm not going to hit on apply. So I'll just simply go to the next one, which is the object layers. So as you understand, Civil 3D is usually built on the engine of AutoCAD. So where we have layers connected to certain objects within the drawing. So in this case, we have objects such as alignments, the one that we use to create our railways or our roads or the pipe network in some cases, so on and so forth. So when you're working on these items, the software usually attaches them or creates a relationship of those objects to a specific layer. And in this case, by default, it will create the object of alignment to be connected to a layer called C road. So if you're not satisfied with that, you can just simply hit on that specific layer, and under this you're going to specify the layer source. So in this case it's drawing 1 because you're still under drawing 1. Then you can either create a new layer, or you can even select from the existing layers that we have here. So if you want to select, let's say, the C road or rail, you can be able to select here, or you can just simply click on new. Just click on this area, just create your specific layer name. So let's say call it just source code for now, dash road, then dash alignment. Then we can change our color to the one that we prefer. Let's just use, let's say, something like dark blue. So I'll click on that, index color 5, then hit on OK. You can change the line type from here. So you can just click on this ellipse. If you want to use continuous, or you want to use, let's say, dashed, so we can select this dashed, hit on OK. Plus you can always load new ones if you prefer. You can change the line weights if you want to do that. Let's say 0.05, hit on OK. And so many other changes you can make. So I'll click on OK, and we'll find this option here. Then I'll just simply select on it, then click on OK, and just like that, now our layer has been modified. In that, in the event that we are creating a new object, which is an alignment, it is gonna be attached to the source card road alignment layer. So you can also specify for these other options, say the building site. So if it does not have any specific layer, you can create a new layer for itself. So we can call it SourceCAD, let's say building BLD. Then we can change the color later on, or we can just use cyan. So let's click on index color 4, hit on OK. So that's the way we simply do it. And once you're satisfied, you can go through all these objects that we have here and attach the specific layer that you want, then hit on apply. The next item is about abbreviation. So under abbreviation, these are basically what you're going to use in your project. Let's say when you're coming up with curves, tangent, intersection, when you're picking up points in the field, you're going to use PT. So this is very important, especially when you're coming up with your description keys, to make sure that all these items are matching to the database that you already have within your project. So if you don't know how to create description keys, make sure you comment down below and I'll show you how that's done. So there are so many options that we have here. So let's say under super elevation, we have certain items or certain properties. Under cant, we have certain properties down here, and so many other things that you can be able to use and specify them to the item that you prefer. So if it's left, if you're not content with L, you just simply click on it, click on this ellipse, and once it pops up, inside here, you'll see this letter L. So you can specify, let's say you want to use left, and then you can just simply click on OK. Just like that, it will be updated inside here. But you can just simply go back to default. So much of the time I don't change these things because it does not really make a lot of sense changing these things, but depends with the project that you're working on. Yeah. And the next tab is about the ambient settings. So this is where we mainly do the changes. So let's say when we're coming up with a project that has parcels and you want to show the area unit. So under here, it's by default square meters. But let's say in this government that we are currently working for and the lands ministry wants to have their area shown in acres, I just simply change from here, select acres, and the representation will be now in acres. If I want more precision, let's say instead of 2, let's say 3 decimal places, I can show this. And in the event that I want to change any other thing, let's say for volume, I can also do the same. Instead of using cubic meters, I want to use cubic foot or cubic yards. I can change from here. And we have so many other items that we change, as well as the grade. So if you want to change the grade, you can also change from here, or even the slope, you can change from here. If it's rise, run and rise, you can select here, or if you want to rise and run, you can just simply change from here. So it depends with the team that you're working with, as well as the project deliverables that you currently have. So you can always change these things that you want. So let's say you want to use foot per meter squared, you can always change from here. So once that's done, you're gonna simply just hit on apply, and those changes will be applied in your project. So right now we have the metric just as we set, then hit on OK. So that's the way we do for metric. But how do we do for Imperial? Just simply the same thing. So if I go to start, I'll hit on new. So under new, just using the same template. And down here, remember, you can just simply navigate to settings, right click, go to edit drawing settings. But instead of using metric, you're gonna simply click on fit. You're gonna specify the one that you prefer. In this case, let's say US service foot, survey foot, and then you're gonna select the scale that you want to go with. Let's say 1 inch is equals to 50 foot. So you can select from here. Then you can change the angular units. If you're using radians, you can select here. If you're using category, let's say USA. So if you just key in U, it has this search engine, which is really good. It makes it easy for you to navigate to where you want to select. So let's say we want to do a project in US, California. So I'll select on that. It's going to give me this available coordinate systems, which I can simply click on this drop down and specify the exact area. Remember the UTM system that we checked out earlier, you can select from here. So we're going to select on this, but the projection of this one is LM. So it depends with the one that you're currently using in your project. So always make sure to do your proper research for this one before hitting on apply, and it might affect the other team members. So under projection is simply the same thing. This one we barely use it much of the time. Under the object layers, so remember the same thing, you can always change what you want to change from here. So if you don't want this item to be layer 0, you can just simply change it, or you can lock it so that it won't be changed with anyone. And the same thing applies with abbreviation. So remember, you can just update it to the way that you prefer. And under ambient, you can always change the units that you prefer. Let's say under distance, you don't want meters, we want to use either feet, so you can select feet, or miles, so you can always select from here. Under dimensions, instead of using millimeters, so because right now we have selected this, let me first hit on apply, so that once I go here, we can be able now to change everything. So instead of using millimeters, now we can use, let's say, something like feet, then hit on apply, or even inches to make it more precise. So you can use inches, and just like that, that's the way we simply do it. You can always change everything that you want from here. So once that's done, you're gonna simply hit on OK, and now let's save these two drawings. So the first one was metric. Let's save it as a template. And how do we do this? It's rather simple. You simply navigate to this civil 3D icon, click on this once, navigate to save as, and from here we have various options. So in this case, you just want to save it as a template, so click on this option here. Once selected, this Windows file exploration window will pop up, so you can now call it let's say metric drawing or something of the sort. So these are the default templates that usually come with Civil 3D. So for this case, we can make it our very own metric drawing 1. So once satisfied, you can just simply hit on save, and just like that. So this is a description that we have here, so we can just say save it and hit on enter. So let's save the next one. So this will be in metric Imperial, so I'll simply navigate to save as, select drawing template, then right now we have the metric, so let's save it as Imperial. So once that's done, click on save, and this description will pop up. The measurement is now English, it's not metric, and you're gonna simply hit on OK. So once that's done, these two are now templates that you can be able to use and also send to anyone within your project, so that they can be able to simply refer it or just use it as a standard document when they're coming up with their design. So the last thing that I want to show you is how to set all those items using ChatGPT. So how do we do that? So right now in this era of AI, it's really important to know how to integrate AI with also your CAD softwares. So I'm going to click on this plus to start a new drawing, and then I'll simply jump into ChatGPT so that we can be able to give it a prompt. So I'll simply open my text file. So this is a simple prompt that I have created, and I'll share it with you. So it simply goes through the main items that we want to consider for a project. So the question is, what should I look for when setting up a new Civil 3D drawing to make sure that it is ready for use? First item, metric is a project format. 2, the project is situated in Nairobi County, Kenya. What coordinate system, datum, and projection settings are used there I ought to use? Third, the project includes pipe networks, roads, and parcels. So what are some settings that I should double check under the ambient settings? And 4, what are other configurations I ought to check? So we're gonna just simply copy this, and I'm gonna be sharing this prompt with you. So I'll right click on copy, and just simply jump to my browser. So right here I have my browser. So this is logged out. This is a free version of ChatGPT. Then I'll right click and paste as plain text, then give it now to the AI to come up with something. So right now it's going through the options that we have here, and it's giving us the different items that we need to consider. All right, so now it's done, and I want us to go step by step on what we need to consider here. So the first item is the coordinate system. So the coordinate system, remember under this setting, I'll right click, go to drawing settings, and the UTM and the coordinate system. So it's telling us that we select this category here to be Kenya. So we already know it's Kenya, so simply navigate to Kenya. So select on Kenya. Then once that's done, let's check on the coordinate system. So the coordinate system is telling us is UTM zone 37S. So let's click on this drop down, 37S. All right. And the datum is WGS84. So this depends if you're using the World Geodetic System 1984 or if you're using now the UTM. So for our case, you're using UTM. So this is all right. So let's check the next item. This is the ambient, the second item. So under ambient here, we check that the drawing settings are in metric. So we have meters or millimeters. So remember ambient, let's say distance. So just click on this. This is in meters. So this is all right. Let's check dimensions. So this is in millimeters. So that's all right. So this simply means that it's in metric. And under the coordinates, it's in meters. So that's all right. So let's now check something else. Let's say quality assurance. So this is just to ensure that your Civil 3D software is up to date, avoiding bugs, so on and so forth. And the file management, making sure that your drawing file is organized and backed up. So yeah, so that's simply how we do it. You can also prompt ChatGPT with various prompts just to make sure that everything is all right. And that's the way we simply come up with the drawing settings for our project. All right, so once that's done, let's just simply save this as a new template. So we can just, for ease, we can just save it as, let's say, ChatGPT drawing 3, something of the sort. So I can be able to share these templates with you so that you can be able to go through them and also check what they have. So under the description, I can just add, let's say, AI generated or something of the sort. And then I'm going to hit on OK. So remember, my units of measurement for this one are metric. So I'll just hit on OK. All right, so we have our metric drawing, our imperial drawing, and our ChatGPT drawing. Although it's important to mention, especially when we're working with our imperial and our metric drawings or templates, when you're working with your imperial, make sure to use the Civil 3D for imperial. So there are two types of Civil 3D, the metric one and the imperial one. So currently this one we are running the metric, but if I was to run the imperial one, let's say if I just click on run and it's gonna open up, it's gonna be preset to imperial units. So this makes easy for the engineer, or it makes it easy for you, especially as a designer. So let's say I just run new. By default it will pick the imperial template. So remember, down here it's simply picking the imperial. But for this other Civil 3D, this one here, by default, if I go back to start, by default it will pick the metric. You can clearly see in parentheses metric, while this other one is picking in imperial. So if I was to click on new and I navigate back to our drawing settings, so I navigate to our drawing settings, down here we have all the items. Let's say distance already in feet or foot, this one in inches, the coordinates already in foot, this grid coordinate, it's already in foot. If I was go to units and zone, it's already in feet, and it's already been set in a way that it makes it easier for imperial user. So that is an advice that I'll give you, especially when you're coming up with imperial templates and designs. Make sure to run the imperial options.
So that was all about making the basic settings in Civil 3D projects. If you are new to Civil 3D and want to learn it right from scratch, then sign up for the free Civil 3D Essentials course that I mentioned before as well in this video. You can learn all about Civil 3D right from scratch in the course that I mentioned, and you'll also get a certificate of completion when you finish the course 100%. The link of Civil 3D Essentials course is in the description of this video, and it's also in the pinned comment. Finally, let me know which topic you want us to cover in the next video, and I'll see you soon in the next one.